Dit programma wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door het International Film Festival Rotterdam.
Welkom bij het International Film Festival Rotterdam. Rotterdam is 10 dagen helemaal filmgek en iedere avond vindt hier in het oude Luxor Big Talk plaats. Daarin zetten we een gerenommeerd interviewer tegenover een belangrijke gast van het festival. Vanavond interviewt Anna Tilroe, bijzonder hoogleraar kunst en cultuur van de Universiteit Nijmegen, Steve McQueen over zijn film Shame.
You're the man. Your pitch, amazing, amazing. To nailing it. To nailing it.
Yes.
How'd it go last night?
Good night.
Let's do it again tonight.
And my sister's playing downtown somewhere.
I stay for a few days. You're so angry.
That's my boss.
Hey, do you want to play?
Your hard drive is filthy. I mean, it is dirty.
Slowly.
I'm trying to help you.
How are you helping me, huh? You come in here and you're a weight on me. You're a burden. You want to get out of here? I could take you somewhere.
We're family. We're meant to look after each other.
Hey, Romeo.
Brandon, please will you pick up the phone?
Please for him.
I'm so far away from you.
Yes, I think I need my glasses to see you.
This is theatre.
Hi, Steve.
Hello.
You know something? I read.
This is very intimate.
Yes. This morning I read something very special in the Volkskrant. That means something to you, the Volkskrant?
Yes, of course, yes.
Yes. It was an article about young kids, say 13, 14, 15 years old. And the article was about the fact that parents don't talk about sex with their children anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I thought, isn't that strange? When you think about the sexual liberation from the 60s and the 70s, you would expect that sex has normalized in our society. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently it isn't. And if I see your film...
Normalize our society. Sorry.
If I see your film, then I have the strong impression that it is not normal at all.
I don't know. I think. I mean, I must admit, I'm from London, and I remember my first coming to Amsterdam. And when I grew up, the closest thing I ever got to pornography, for example, my mum and dad never talked to me about sex ever. That was never in the conversation. My mum and dad was West Indian immigrants.
In London?
Sorry, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, it's in stereo.
It was in London?
Yeah, in London, yes. And
Yeah.
And the nearest I got to pornography was in a newsagent's. The top shelf in a newsagent, where the pornography was. That's the closest thing I ever got to pornography. Or when that kid brought that one pornography magazine to school, and like 50 kids hovered around it, and it was torn to shreds, and they were hovering around it. So that was it, really. So I can imagine that's true. I can imagine that a lot of kids don't have that conversation with their parents. I mean, people come from different circumstances, and yeah, for sure. And
but that the parents don't have it with the children.
No, of course. I mean, I think that's kind of. I mean, I'm not surprised. No, I'm totally not surprised. I mean, not everywhere is kind of as liberated as other places.
We are not liberated at all.
Sorry?
We are not liberated at all.
Well, I don't know. It's different. I think certain people, it's embarrassing to talk about sex with their kids.
Yeah.
Even if they are sort of enlightened as such, or whatever that means. With my daughter, you live in Amsterdam. It's kind of like with a sex shop on the corner. It's difficult to avoid it. You don't have a conversation about sex.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
right.
the first time I was in a sex shop was in Amsterdam.
Yeah, but everything is
I
sexualized.
was like 30. So.
Yeah, but when I saw your film, I thought that sex was something intimidating. Yeah, when I look at this man who is totally obsessed by sex, then sex becomes something big. Like when you're a drug addict, drugs become something big, and then it becomes intimidating in a way.
I don't know.
Do you understand what I mean?
I don't think intimidating. Maybe for the audience.
Sorry?
I think maybe for the audience it's intimidating, not for the person who's addicted, because it's something which this person needs to sort of survive a day. I mean, similar to an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And you need that bottle of half a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of wine before you start dating your system just to be normal.
No, I mean that you're looking at a very strong power. That sex can be, that you can totally become addicted.
I think we've all here in this audience, in this room, have all had that urge, that Jekyll and Hyde urge, that you want to fuck or be fucked. I mean, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
I mean, am I lying? I mean...
Yeah.
It's very Beckett-ish, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a particular scene where you see a man and a woman in front of a window having sex.
Yeah.
And finally, Brandon also does the same act in front of a window.
Yes.
Now I was wondering, when I saw that, when you see such an exhibitionism, almost narcissism, if you have tried to make with this film a kind of social portrait, a cultural portrait.
Social portrait, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, again...
Or cultural portrait.
People could call it pornography as well, because of this whole idea of what you just said, the intimacy showing to a broader public.
Yeah.
Not just for the actors, of course. I'm showing it to an audience, but I think it's more for me about storytelling. And you talked about the sort of whole idea of intimacy. Or why is he doing that as such? Because, I mean, again, it's we saw Brandon earlier on, before he went on his date with Marianne, sort of discovering this couple, having sex in front of in the window from whatever, this guy from behind. But there's a certain kind of, I imagine, he's turned on or he's intrigued by it or something like that. So it's just a case of copying, of course, that act. Often people, if they see something in some situation, they want to copy that act as a fantasy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the borderline between private and public, which is something.
I don't think there is at all, really, anymore. Well, not anymore. I don't think there is. I mean, I can imagine the most embarrassing thing that I've done. You can imagine. I imagine half the audience have done it. Or, I mean, it's not. I mean, there's nothing.
The other subject that I want to talk with you about is the man, the male. When I saw it, I was thinking backwards to an art piece of yours that made you a real. Well, it was the beginning of you being a star in the art world. Bear.
Okay.
Two naked men. Struggling with each other.
Yeah.
that was really already the male, showing his body, confrontational with each other.
You know, again, you know, one sort of starts with what they know, and what they know is, you know,
Yeah.
I was, you know, and also at the time doing there, you know, was fairly young, early 20s, 22, and one of those situations where I didn't have a lot of money, so I thought the most things you could do is to use yourself.
Yeah.
And a camera. So I had a camera. So it was one of those things, those immediate things that I thought I could do.
Yeah.
And again, it was a tussle. Again, you know, these two males, are they you know, are they sort of lovers, or is it a kind of sort of some sort of courtship? Are they wrestling? You know, what is this ambiguous sort of relationship?
Yeah.
That's what I was interested in, and I thought, you know, as far as and of course, two males, I just thought it was interesting to be two people, which if it was a man and a woman, it would be different because the physicality would be different. Because the male would have been stronger. I don't want the same sex.
Help me. Were two
physicality
black
be the
men?
same.
I don't remember that. Were two black men? That
Yeah,
were
two men, yes, two men, yeah.
two black men?
Two men, yeah. Okay. Yeah. There were two men, and the whole idea of this wrestling and this sort of ambiguity, but at the same time this heightened sexuality, but also heightened violence, was I was kind of interested in at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, when you go to sort of hunger, and then the body is used in some ways to sort of course, this person uses his body as a vessel, as a weapon, through stopping eating to be a weapon. That was another sort of interest. And again, with Brandon, I mean, the paradox between Brandon and Bobby Sands is that you get this guy who's in a maximum security prison, in a small prison cell.
Yeah.
And in order for him to create his own freedom, he stops eating to create his own freedom. But then you get in a situation where Brandon has, which is completely different on the other side of the world, complete freedom. You know, he's no boundaries, no barriers, no nothing sort of in his way. But within his environment of New York, this mecca of freedom as such, he creates his own prison by his sexual acts.
Right.
So it's interesting. I like this kind of the oddity of that. But
Yeah.
both, of course, males using their body, in one way, shape, form, or the other. Yeah.
Well, and I asked that also because there is much discussion about the gender issues.
Yes.
That's where I'm talking about. And I was wondering if that plays a part in your work, in your films or in your artwork.
I mean, I was never conscious of it. I was never thinking of it. But you know, I think possibly. I mean, again, I'm working with Michael Fassbender a couple of times, and you know, a lot of the films have been sort of a lot of male sort of protagonists. But I think possibly because it's something which I'm familiar with. But it's not to say that when I was working with, for example, Carey Mulligan, who plays Brandon's sister, that was another aspect which I was extraordinarily interested in because, of course, Brandon is very, he's very sort of insular, you know, and of course his sister is a very extrovert, and Brandon's very introvert, and they deal with the same situation, deal with the same background, but in a very different way.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to make her a singer. I was very interested in her and in Marianne, the two main male and female, the protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very strange relationship between the brother and the sister. Huh?
Yeah.
In the beginning, I thought that she was his lover.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is something that people hardly talk about when I read the interview with you or the. But it has this suggestion of some incestuous situation.
People have spoken about that.
Oh, they did.
It's one of those situations where I like that. I think there's obviously some sexual past, not necessarily between the two, possibly between the two. I don't know.
No.
But obviously, you know, they never mention their parents once in the whole movie.
No.
And of course, the classic line that Sissy says at the end of the movie, you know, we don't come from a bad place. We're not bad people. We could just come from a bad place. I think it tells you a lot about what the possibilities are.
Yes.
And the reason why I wanted to keep it open-ended like that, the reason why I didn't want to give you some yarn of what possibly could have happened to these siblings, was that I like the idea that you know, it's almost like when you get to know someone, and after a period of time, the past comes into the present. Yeah. So, you know, I like the idea that through the movie, the past enters into the present. For example, when Sissy is singing New York to Brandon, you pick up on something that, what's happened here, something has happened in their past, or the odd, tricky relationship, but it's sexualized, but not. So I love that idea that the audience is intelligent enough to pick up on that, and it sort of gives it much more weight. And also, I didn't want to be precise or in a way of why these characters, why they were the way they were, to give any kind of reason because of a terrible childhood. That's why they're like this. No, I just wanted to be.
And that's why you leave the end open also. Huh? But is it not?
I left the end open because I think addiction is a very hard thing. You know, it's not a situation where you just kick it tomorrow.
No.
It's one of those things where it's a struggle. It's one of those things where does Brandon stay on the train? Does he get off the train? And if he stays on the train tomorrow, does he get off it?
Yeah.
I want to let this open ending because. Hopefully, I'm hoping that Brandon will succeed and be in recovery. But we have to wait and see. I didn't want to give a Hollywood happy ending.
No, sure you don't want that. Another question, and because we have to finish, and that is your past or your actual situation still as an artist.
Yes, I am.
Entering the film world.
I was always. I mean, again, I went to NYU, unfortunately, in 1993. NYU is the New York Film School. New York University is a film school there. And the reason why I wanted to go there because Scorsese and Spike Lee and Jim Jarmusch were participants there. But that was very early on. And my father always said to me, get a trade. And my mum always told me, do what you want to do. So I thought if I'm a filmmaker, I could get a trade and do what the hell I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's why. But then I realized that the film school was just not for me because I was there for like 3 months. I left after 3 months just because they wouldn't let me throw the camera in the air. I think the art background for me was so much about, I went to Goldsmiths when I can't remember how old I was when I got early 20s. And, they give you a huge studio. And they say, okay, get on with it. And of course, when you're 19 years old, or whatever, 19 years old, you think, oh, fantastic. You think, brilliant, this is wonderful. But then, because you've been told what to do since you were sort of 5 years old, you break down and think, oh my God, someone tell me what to do. And then you build, obviously you build yourself up.
Yeah.
And build yourself in how you structure yourself as an artist or as a,
But there was one scene in particular, the scene in the restaurant, where the two people who hardly know each other try to have a conversation, and it lasts, and they figuratively speaking, they dance around each other, trying to find out where they have points of connection, and then the waiter comes in, and it lasts. And the wonderful aspect for me of this scene is that precisely because it takes such a long time, that it becomes real life.
I think it's one of those situations where. That scene for me, I wanted it to be in real time, which is actually a very interesting question, because what for me was important is there's film time, there's real time, and what made it sort of, why I wanted to shoot that, for example, in one take, was to sort of have a situation where you were present. It's awkward. It's Brandon, he wants to connect with Marianne, and Marianne wants to connect. Obviously, Marianne wants to connect with him, but there's a certain kind of there's almost like a pillar in between them, and the pillar as well, of course, is the waiter coming in every 5 minutes, almost like a Peter Sellers sort of prompting it and disrupting it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have that sort of. We had to have that scene in one take in some ways, just to sort of feel the unease and the uncomfortableness of that situation, because the real date happens on the street. In a way, the real of getting to know each other, the intimacy, or letting in, or the sort of happens in the walk and talk.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, those kind of formal situations that I wanted to present as the date, as we have always have.
Yeah.
As far as the second question is concerned, I think people, what I'm very happy with is that people are responding to the film and have responded to Hunger in a way that helps me make films in some ways because of people responding in the way that they have, and it's helped me sort of do in the next film that I'm making. So I think also people are. I mean, it sounds corny for me to say this, but people are extraordinarily intelligent. They don't need to be spoon-fed a story. They want to be stimulated. That's why TV is kind of interesting right now.
Yeah.
But TV can't do what cinema does, and that's never the thing. I think that's the thing. There's HBO and you have these episodes, but what cinema can do is have a situation where there's a certain kind of, how can I say, it's a certain kind of smell. You can't really smell TV. There's a certain kind of, it's almost like going back to your grandmother's house in your adulthood, and you have all those memories coming back to you. There's a certain kind of way of making films, or what cinema can do is just be so much more powerful in one punch, rather than sort of 12 rounds as such.
So film has still a beautiful future in front of it.
I hope so. I hope so. Film has.
Okay.
Not me, but hopefully film.
Oh.
I hope and me, but you know.
Okay. And what?
Dit programma werd mede mogelijk gemaakt door het International Film Festival Rotterdam.